Peace FM 104.3. Good to meet you.
Look,
Anti Brazil, almost targeted
exchange rate. Sometimes you can even monetary policy managers can actually define or more goals, to be focused more on exchange rate, because exchange rate, well, you can even use exchange rate as a way of dealing with inflation. Oh, so some and I will seek a holding conforma. Sometimes it affects the rate at which general levels of prices rise. Oh, because your BBI friend pass through. So if your exchange rate is weaker, now your mama on it at the bar. So exchange rate in your weakening, there is some pass-through effect that causes your prices to rise. And to target exchange rate. And to use exchange rate depreciation as an excuse why you lost this amount of money now, it smacks of weakness on the part of the performance of the central bank. Even though Mijitum say a lot of the time there are fiscal drivers too that affect currency depreciation. But they also accused inflation for being the reason or more operational expenditure costs. Who are supposed to manage inflation? And your central bank. Let's say if you are unable to manage inflation now, you turn around and tell us, and the role of the central bank is to ensure price stability and also contribute to economic growth. And if you have failed to manage prices, to ensure price stability, you don't turn around and say, operational expenditure equals. And if you look at the quantum leaps, it's difficult to even explain what has here. And the central bank, this is the first time me Marty say central bank are going incur loss to the tune of 60 billion. Many years but since Mr. T this is the first time in Ghana Marty says central bank has incurred loss and has incurred it to this tune. It is mind-boggling. And Ocean Yeman course some of the operational expenditures, and the explanation, seems to be overlapping. I mentioned the bit about maintenance cost and and travel cost. The explanation for the two, it turned out from T and Rano from the spokesperson for the central bank. T, and it turned out as the explanation was similar. So moving currency from one point to the other is part of maintenance. Okay, let's see Yajatum. How do you explain cost of travel? And Omusaka say moving currency from one point to the other. So there is duplicity and there is duplication in the budget items. Now, so at the end of the day, incur huge sums. Yeah, these huge sums. End of the year. Media near cost it is going to have implications on the financial sector, because now says central bank lendi to commercial banks. And sikaso na omudi ma omono. Now say if you are incurring this loss, 60 billion, sikana odima commercial banks no kofan wahi. What I say? The money you lend to send commercial banks no kofan wahi. Already people are complaining. Say some of these commercial banks are beginning to experience illiquidity. And now they are beginning to experience liquidity shortfalls.
And what's that you're saying?
Sikana omudi ye jumano. Eswati. And now, because if you are having liquidity issues, usually you rely on the central bank. Now, central bank are Maubi. Now, central bank name they are having issues with liquidity. Because they are claiming that they have incurred a loss of 60 billion. And imagine 60 billion leaving the central bank's vote. Sikasa Nebeka, like the ama commercial banks that are in dire straits. Look. The central bank claims said they came to do financial sector cleanup. So you can say central like Nyomuya is going to be worse than we experienced before the financial sector cleanup. No, a lot of banks are likely going to go under, because if they need money to satisfy demand calls by customers, what do you think is going to happen? If I come to you as a commercial bank, my deposits were on chain. AB usu deposits ama loans, and you are unable to get liquidity injection from the central bank. What happens? Ni say nipa ba kumienu enya sa hintna. There is likely going to be a run on that bank. Obi abepeso obekwa withdraw the deposits in the fear say yen yi esika say sia near etu ye dan no ebetu yen biem. And mind you, apart from the losses people incurred due to the financial sector cleanup, no, Abayan Kasa using debt exchange program now, no. Among for SR Shri or Musika, Ebimusu na omuhia or Musika di Juman says, ya Omunsan Kasa Asikan. And imagine these two experiences already in mind. Now, if you work or bank also opesika and there are issues with liquidity, what do you think is going to happen? People would want to run on the bank and go in omu investments they would want to liquidate their investments in these banks. They would want to go and get their deposits out and sign an year two betu. And what do you think is going to happen to that sector? And in the air course, there is likely going to be worse implications on our financial sector than we have ever experienced. And like I said, this is the first time Marty said central bank is in crisis, not because of maybe exchange rates, like fixed exchange rate issues in San, but it is in crisis because of losses. Omako Sika and Omashria until they are in crisis. Minti be that. And imagine if your central bank is in crisis, what do you think is going to happen? As for the fiscal side, they are say that. And the only hope Ghanaians had was at least monetary side, you bet me managing a year. Now almost yes, yeah. Let's just say I say bye. The very reason why we went to the IMF was because we're in some kind of crisis, fiscal crisis. Since here we are experiencing another one, we are likely going to experience another one. And no monetary crisis there and our financial crisis, you be experience you. Because you cannot, Sabi, you don't just get up and go and print money as and when. Oh, Kakrana ewa yedi bonho baino. And Nuna Central Bank catch and say they have incurred a loss of 60 billion. Now we share the breakdown now. A BIM share. And young Kotia almost is currency depreciation and inflation. Is this the first time our currency has depreciated? We've had worse experiences. Under Jerry Rawlings, we had worse experiences. But the Bank of Ghana never said they had run losses to this tune. In fact, when we're even running fixed exchange regime, no. We did not experience this. And then, you see, we're experiencing losses up to this tune. And because and the explanation is that because of the currency depreciation. And for example, travels. So the tickets are dollar denominated. Tickets sold in Ghana, people pay in Ghana cedis. And yes, bookie tickets are. People pay in Ghana. You don't pay for the ticket in dollars. So what has the city depreciation got to do with your travel? AB Ubeka say cost na kosru kakra. But enye exponentially to the extent say and no bet me accounting for the large increases in expenditure within the subject period. Now again, almost technology updates in this like these are routine things that central bank da. Now so mu catch and say the reason why the operational expenditures ekosro. Ujunwa untiasie. Intermediate, if there's a call for the top managers of the central bank to step aside, because this is the first time we're experiencing this. And it can only be a function of incompetence and not deliberate incompetence. Because we're accusing the fiscal side of being reckless in their spending. And our hope was the monetary side. So said they can even be more reckless than the fiscal side. Not just say and I say buy. Because as for fiscal authorities there, a lot of the time they tend to slip over the limits that are reasonable. Now Musu die, Munim said if you decide to go reckless with your spending, what happens is Mudisi kaduduo and a beba system no more. And once there is a lot of money in circulation, what is going to happen is that inflation is going to rise. Now, this is a spiral. So we contribute to the rise in inflation, and we turn around to explain say expenditure no cost is because of the rise in inflation. So spirally, there is one of the causes of inflation is what they call wage price spiral. Say if there is an increase or rise in inflation, or complain say inflation are cost and in real terms no eswa enti mumfa ketua ni bi and count. So once they pay you more money, there is more money in circulation, so more inflation. Then you continue to demand more wages. So it becomes a spiral. And in a different form. So central bank contributes to higher inflation, turns around to say, oh, we are going to increase our operational expenditure because of the high inflation, causing more inflation. Until this can only be a function of incompetence, deliberate or not. What you say? And we cannot continue to have, people and they should manage our monetary policy doing this to us. And the excuse of fiscal dominance, I don't want to buy it today, I don't want to buy it tomorrow, because we've moved to a point where there are legislative safeguards for the central bank to prevent fiscal dominance. For example, the fiscal side and the finance minister cannot force you to go and sell treasury bills and some other securities to fund the budget. They can't force you, and they can't force you to lend them money beyond a certain threshold. We are not just because you have a legislative safeguard that allows you to provide a bulwark against fiscal dominance.
There is no bulwark, and there is
no like no. Gambaga for
Debbie.
Gambaga for the
and liquidity and a bulwark and an instrument and a wine.
No, one was a way the Nana way the no one be want to Kano.
Gambaga 40. O make us away on from Krobo. Kazawe.
O Gambaga no Gambaga brofo aye kani.
Anyway.
Peace FM 104.3. Good to meet you.